So Zoe, today we are talking about impact.
We are. I like that.
Are you feeling the impact?
I feel like you're a gladiator then. Impact. That could be your name.
Oh, that would be good. Yeah.
Erica's gladiator name,
Big
folks.
impact. What would yours be?
Brain fog. Sorry, that's an age-related issue.
You'll spend 80,000 hours at work. You're here because you want those hours to count. Hi, I'm Zoe Schofield.
And I'm Erica Sosner. A warm welcome to the Career Equation podcast. On this podcast, we take time out from our award-winning careers consultancy to share a game-changing formula to help you solve the sum of your life.
Each week, we and our guests use the Career Equation to explore their story so far and help them unlock the secrets of a fulfilling career.
Anyway, look, heavy impact over here is what we are talking about today on the Career Equation podcast. The idea, in fact, of impact, because in the equation, we say skills plus passion plus impact divided by the minimum level of friction in your environment. Yeah. So impact is really a crucial component of a fulfilling and successful career. And today we're going to be exploring how you align your ideas about making a difference and seeing a result that matters to you in your work, whether you're in an organization, in an industry, or in the lives of others. Impact is this crucial element. And true career satisfaction, it doesn't just come from earning a decent amount of money. It comes from knowing that your work creates value and it leaves a lasting impression. But of course, each of us have a different definition of what value looks and feels like, and what we want to measure in order to feel successful in our work. And so success is a deeply personal concept, and everyone's definitions are going to be as unique as they are. And too often people chase all the kind of conventional ideas of success, titles, salary, prestige. And of course, we're bombarded with other people's ideas and what social media has to say about what success is supposed to look like, without really pausing to consider, actually, is that what I want to track? Is that what matters to me? Is that what I want to keep score around? So to build a career in any industry with real impact, then we need to be able to define what is success on my own terms, rather than being influenced by social expectations, familial expectations, peers, and even our managers and colleagues around us. And also not being too swayed by the comparison about our perceived achievement amongst other people. So today's session is all about supporting you to be able to define, what do I mean when I talk about a successful life? What kind of impacts matter to me, so that I can articulate them and live them and move towards them in a meaningful way? And if you are a people leader, a coach, a mentor, having some great questions to be able to dial in to what matters to the person in front of you is a fantastic way to learn more about them, to help them to find the places that they thrive, and to ensure that your feedback really relates to the things that are most important to them. So when we explore a unique definition of success, we can align our careers with what works inside of us, rather than settling for external validation of our success.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're going to explore why impact creates so much energy and power when it comes to a fulfilling career and a thriving career, and how you can get started to think about what does really matter to me, the impact, what is it that I want to do in my work. And also we'll talk a bit about how the career equation can help you identify these sort of sweet spots that will take you on that journey. We'll talk about a few examples from our pod episodes where we can really think about how impact came through in those conversations. And we'll think a little bit about our own careers. And we'll definitely give you some practical tips to take away at the end, and a bit of a call to action, I'm sure. Many people feel unfulfilled in their jobs because they think, oh, I'm lacking the skills or ambition, but what actually is happening is they don't see how their work is contributing to a bigger picture, what's meaningful for them. So they go home at the end of the day and they're thinking, yeah, I'm making a difference. I'm adding value. I'm feeling fulfilled and nourished in the work that I'm doing. And impact does fuel that motivation. So we've already talked about passions in our previous episode. But alongside that energy of a passion, you've got to fuel it by seeing a difference. That passion is seeing a difference in the world in some way, or in your life, certainly in some way.
Yeah.
And once people understand the impact of their contributions, they perform better. They do more. Their performance is at a higher level. They're having an impact on the people around them. I have this memory of a leader talking to me once about this idea of coming into work with this need and desire to want to leave that day feeling like she'd made a difference from the day before. And that energy from her used to rub off on the people around her for sure. So when people are aligned in those passions and the impact and they're utilizing their skills, they start to infiltrate, if you like, in a positive way, the people around them. So that's definitely something to remember about the ripple effect of people playing in those sweet spots. And for companies, employees that feel that their work is making a difference are more engaged, they're more productive, they're more committed, they're less likely to leave because they feel in line with the business, but in line with themselves internally as well. So it's a win-win from an individual's perspective, but also from an organizational perspective.
Yeah, definitely. And again, as employers and leaders, being able to suss out almost like 2 or 3 different levels of how people measure their success is incredibly useful. On the very personal level, are they driven by recognition? Do they want to see the results of their work, be able to really see the tangibility of that? Do they want to be a trusted advisor, someone people ask for by name? Those are quite kind of common individual drivers of impact. It's actually quite rare for someone to say to me, I just want to be able to make loads of money, or I want to be really senior. Those aren't generally the sole ways in which people measure impact. But getting clear on the individual basis, what is it that makes them feel like their work was worth doing? And then the things that they may contribute to because they're part of your organization, that's the next level. So whether that's in service of clients, whether it's the development and nurturing of talent of another generation, whether it's the production of a building, a space, an environment, a performance, so, that they're contributing to, it's also really useful to have them articulate what it is that makes it worth showing up every day. So try to consider it with them from both the individual, the team, and maybe even the kind of massive social and environmental things that matter to people, that they want to feel like they are in alignment with. Okay. Because I know for some organizations, they go, if people are coming to us and they're saying, then we're not able to measure up with their definition of impact, they may not want to stay with us. But what I'm saying is that impact is both personal, team, and universal. So remember to think about it on those levels if you are coaching or in conversation around that, and help people get clear on it.
One thing when you were talking then about that understanding of most people in our experience aren't just after the money necessarily, but sometimes conversations do happen like that where someone's after the promotion or the next grade, and that might not be within your gift to give right now. So Eric and I always talk about the getting underneath what it is that thing will give them. So what would the next grade give you? What is it that you want to experience? And that's when people will start to talk about more recognition, more opportunity to play in a different area, in a different field or
more
a different part.
Responsibility.
Absolutely. So getting underneath that, I guess, sort of superficial layer almost of a symbol to what it will actually give them might give you clues to be able to say, so I can't do the grade thing, but we could look at a secondment over to this area of the business where you'll get to play in that space. And actually that will feed your CV ready for when that next opportunity comes up for a grade. So get underneath that sort of layer if you are having them sort of higher level conversations.
Yeah. And it encourages a kind of creativity on both sides, shutting down the conversation because there is a headcount freeze. You're limiting the number of partners. You can't offer that progression and promotion that somebody is asking for. Being able to keep the conversation open and get creative about what we can do based on the experience that promotion or change in status or change in role would give them. It's really a mistake to shut down the conversation. And so many managers do this because they're thinking, I can't give more money. I can't give that promotion to director level. So I'm just not going to talk about careers at all. What people want is to feel like they are growing and progressing. So if you understand what growth and progression looks like for them, you've got a much better chance of being able to meet that in a way that works for everybody whilst the climate evolves and changes, or whilst they prepare themselves to be ready to be the right person to be promoted.
And sometimes it can be the smallest of things that will make the difference. I know organisations like Talus comes to mind, actually, that I know do volunteering days. They start to build in, other ways within the business that people feel that they can contribute to the wider society around them. And that can then sometimes trigger for them things that they begin to bring into their outside work life. So overall, they're thriving, but they get those opportunities in work as well.
Yeah, sure. And the creativity of using a development budget, or as you said, putting someone on secondment or giving discretionary hours to explore doing something that's particularly important to them. It's that sense of momentum and progression around whatever your impact is, I think, that matters the most. And we'll give some examples of that as we move through. But let's talk about how to get started as an individual and thinking about your own impact. And, how to ask the questions if you're the listener, the person trying to extract the goodness from the other person. So the first thing is to really get thinking about past impactful moments. What are the times in your career where you really felt most proud of yourself? What were you up to? What were you doing? And who benefited from it? And how did that work make a difference? How did you know that you felt successful? So that might be everything from winning an award and having that recognized and celebrating together as a team. It could be, like for me, having a book published, going into WH Smith and seeing it for the first time, that kind of, this thing happened, I got it over the line, other people can see it and engage with it. Perhaps really great feedback that you got from somebody about something that you did that was well executed or really made their lives simpler or was a pleasure for them to use. So just thinking about those touch point moments where you felt a real sense of accomplishment and pride, that tells you something about what you are measuring. The second thing is to ask yourself the question, so how do I even define success? Clarify what success actually means to you. And remember, this is such an individual thing because each of us has our own unique definition for success. And often the voice that is us, that is truthful around that, is quite quiet. And so we might be hearing all the other views that are coming in more loudly as input and perhaps driving some of our behaviors or some of the things that we think that we want, but really taking time to tune into just in the quiet and the space of my internal world. What do I mean when I say that I want to be successful or that I feel successful in my work or that my work has been worth doing? Was it because you got to use something really new and exciting and innovative? Was it because you solve a problem and you look back with satisfaction about the impact you've had on that? Was it about helping others to grow and flourish? Was it about changing the environment that people inhabit in some way? So really taking time to check in on that and remembering that that can change and evolve as you change and evolve. Yeah. And that's probably, of the equation, I'd say the impact is the most volatile element. Absolutely. Because often when we've accomplished something, we want to move on to something else. And so a different metric happens at different ages and stages in your life. The third is look at the opportunities where you can amplify your impact. Are there projects, roles, opportunities where you could take your strengths, align them with your passions, and create meaningful work? Keep scanning for the opportunities to create a feeling of success and impact. And be able to work out how to communicate it. What is the kind of language that you want to share about the value that you bring, both to yourself and to other people? And being able to have some way of keeping score, being able to measure, depends on being able to define what it is that you're trying to measure. And we all know that what gets measured gets done. So really think about, how might I be able to measure the impact that I'm having in a way that I can share with other people, that will help me to reflect on my own success. It will help me to be able to articulate my value and influence and advocate for that. But it will also help me to find the tweaks and the changes in the life I'm living and the work that I'm doing and the approach that I'm taking and the skills that I'm growing that allow me to continue to refine, experiencing more and more impact in the work that I do. For example, for me, it's always been really important to communicate and share ideas that help people feel great about themselves, understand their remarkability and thereby have a positive impact and feel like they have agency in their lives. And so I'm always looking at like different ways to be able to do that, whether that is articles or books or podcasts or videos or talks or reading other people's great works in these areas and thinking about how I might integrate them, or sometimes even just sharing and reposting like other people's stuff that's in the vein. That is also increasing my impact. So some of the things may be very consequential and substantial. You might need to go back and study. It might be years of work. Other things might just be hitting share with a sensible comment to bring that value to your community. So really think about how can I communicate what my impact is and how can I continue to amplify around it.
Absolutely. Impact is just one of the components that sits in the career equation. So we've got 4 components. So we're saying that you want to be playing to your skills. So that's the first component. So we're playing with the skills and the strengths, the talents, our gifts, our superpowers that we want to play with, we want to develop further. We're applying them to a passion. So that's the second component. We've talked about that in a previous pod. Check it out if you haven't watched it yet. So we're applying those skills to an area of passion, a subject, topic, industry that we care deeply about, that motivates us, energizes us, that gets us in a passion. And then the third component is impact. And we're seeing the results of our work. We're seeing in a meaningful way, in a fulfilling way, this is good stuff. I'm enjoying this personally. The inner me is getting satisfied here. The outside of me is also making a difference in the world, community, where I live, whatever it might be. So you want those 3 components to be playing in your sweet spot. The environment piece is the piece where you want those things to be happening in an environment with the least amount of friction, the least things that are going to aggravate you, irritate you, drain you, make you feel uncomfortable. We want a flourishing environment where you're nourished and nurtured by the environment around you. Once you get those things all aligned, then we're talking about a thriving zone. Then we're talking about being in your sweet spot. So you really start to be playing in that wonderful space.
And we've spent so much time coaching people one-on-one and in groups around this, but just thinking specifically about some of our pod guests. I remember Anna Claire Harper, a real estate investor and a real expert and thought leader in that space. And her impact statement to me was, I want to be part of building 1,000 homes. Extremely measurable. That's what I loved about it. She can literally track with the deals that she's doing, with the investments that she's making possible, with the expertise that she's sharing. Am I ticking off a contribution to knocking down that number of 1,000 homes? And then she said to me, 1,000 homes already sounds substantial, but actually there's a number of people that inhabit each of those homes. And then there are the communities in which they live. So actually you really start to add up your scale. And not everyone will have that same sort of easily measurable tangibility. You might, for example, want to talk about generating financial stability for yourself and your family or making your children proud. And it's still really worth thinking about, how will I know that I've done that? What will that look like? How would I be able to have a metric for that? And I remember Dan Wallman, who runs Tech Native. So he was talking about the sort of unforgettable experiences of seeing apprentices graduate, of seeing non-traditional students having an opportunity they wouldn't otherwise have had and flourishing in it, really, really running with it. Seeing people make quite significant pivots in their career later in life into the tech space and going, I was part of that. I provided that journey. I made that happen. And for so many people, the reward of uplifting and supporting others is the key thing. But again, put some numbers around it. How many people, how many presentations, in what kind of way, increase your net promoter score from X to Y, get this number of referrals. So just because we're good at chasing after, we're chasing after and hunting down something. We all want to be on the impact travelator and getting to the top of it. So the more that you can put an incentive that you can mark, the more motivating it is to move towards it and to see that you are making progress, I think, as well. Some people left corporate jobs to start mission-focused businesses. Others found ways to make a difference within the existing role by championing a cause. I know Holly Smith talked a lot about being involved in different kinds of networks and employee engagement activities. Lots of people talk about mentoring and legacy building, supporting other people, driving innovation in their space and being change makers. And in all of these, the stories are all about how do you prioritize impact and how much it leads to a sense of career satisfaction. If you're going to spend 80,000 hours at work, how do you make sure that is time well spent, and that you can keep refining both the goals that you set, but also the way that you're traveling towards that. So the more that you know where you are heading to, the easier it is to navigate and to make adjustments when you get a little bit off course.
Absolutely.
How about you? What kind of guests come to mind when you think about impact making a big difference?
Well, I've got two guests that come to mind, actually. So Marcy Scholl, who is an executive coach, but she also runs a business called the Co-Parenting Method and the Co-Parent Way. And for Marcy, it was all about the difference that she could make as a fantastic coach, but also as a parent who had separated previously and is bringing up their child in a co-parent relationship. The difference that she could make to other parents that really struggle to maintain a communicative relationship around their children, where it might be very challenging, very fraught, very upsetting, but actually to recognize if they can do that in a way, if they can communicate in a way that helps their children see the best side of a relationship in a separated household, that she would make a real difference to the world. And that those children would grow up and be able to maintain healthy and happy relationships because they've seen a model of that from their own parents, even though their parents are not together anymore. And so that's a really core part of Marcy's existence in terms of the impact that she wants to make. So do check out that episode and do check out Marcy's wisdom around this subject as well. And also another one that comes to mind is Charlotte Pascoe, who moved from local government. She worked in Dorset Council, but also then moved into the NHS space, a fabulous project manager and running huge transformation projects in the NHS, making a real difference. But her own personal health, she suffered with breast cancer. And after that, she got super into her own fitness and health. So she was having an impact on her own life, but then decided, I want to do this with other people. I want to help people be the healthiest versions of themselves they can be, whether it's that they play sport and they get injured a lot, or whether they're recovering from an illness, or they just want to be better in their 50s, but in a more realistic and holistic way. So I remember we talked a lot about get bikini fit in 6 weeks and all of that. It's not about that. It's about how can I make a healthy, sustainable life for me where I'm nourished from the inside out, from a healthy perspective. So both of those from an impact point of view, but both utilizing the skills that they've developed over years and years of working in different industries and businesses, but packaging that in a way that then they could see the impact of their work as well.
And Charlotte, a really good example of how impact can shift really fundamentally.
Absolutely.
As a result of life events, and in really constructive ways. And I've seen over and over how sometimes set up for somebody has to be broken before they can allow themselves to reconstruct and reinvent. And it's wonderful to see those transformations and those new chapters come through. And how about for you in your own life?
I think actually what you said earlier about noticing and remembering that your definition of success and impact will change over time. So for me, in my earlier days, when I first started out in banking in Midland Bank, for those that remember Midland Bank, it was about learn a job, move up the ladder, learn a job, move up the ladder, earn a bit more money, meet new people, network. It was all about that. But now it's a much different story. For me, it is about the differences that I can make to individuals, about them helping them to find the best versions of themselves and to live that kind of meaningful and purposeful life through coaching. And you often don't know as a coach what difference I'm making in the moment. You don't always hear the what happened next story. You don't get to know. So one story that comes to mind for me, my daughter in a job that she was doing a couple of years ago, met a lady who came to work there temporarily, and they discovered that this lady knew me. She said to my daughter, "Your mum changed my life." And she came home, "Mum, I've got to tell you about this." And I don't think she actually really had understood to that point what I did. And of course, I didn't change this lady's life at all. I just gave her a safe space in a coaching conversation to explore some ideas, to challenge her inner demons about trying something new. And this is somebody who moved from public sector in a sort of more corporate-y style into retraining to become an occupational therapist. I only know that because she happened to meet my daughter, but that kind of impact from a coaching perspective makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I was thinking about when I joined the civil service fast stream and we were on this talent program. They gave us weeks and weeks of pretty amazing training. One of the facilitators asked us all, we were all around a table, and they said, "So who do you serve?" And all of us said, "The public. We are the civil service." we serve civil society. And the facilitator said, no, you don't. You serve the government of the day. It is your job to move through their agenda, regardless of what the public have to say about it. my face fell. That was a problem. That was a problem for me, because we just had September 11th and the terrorism bill was being pushed through at a rate of knots and had some significant impacts on civil liberties that I didn't agree with. And I wasn't responsible for that bill, as it happens, but the sort of recognition of, hang on a minute, what if I don't agree? Was really problematic for me. It really helped me to understand that actually for me, I needed to be doing things that I agreed with, like that I am not someone who can navigate through something and be ambivalent about the perspective. It really has to be aligned for me. Similar to you, receiving emails from people you've never met that thank you effusively for a change that they've made in their life because they read your book or they listened to your podcast. I mean, that is just extraordinary. And I met up for tea with a coach the other day who said, I listen avidly to all of the podcasts, which is amazing because we never really know if anyone is listening.
Is anyone out there?
Hello. Thank you. And, and so I implement this all the time in my work with young women. Like, that's just wonderful. When you discover that by doing something that you care about, that you do your best to do at the highest standard that you can, and that generates a huge amount of satisfaction from just going, that thing is out there and we've done our best with it, that to then get the feedback on top of that, that's the kind of perfection, I think, of what impact can really give you.
That's the measure of your why. Our why is why we do it. And then the feedback is the helps with the measure, particularly around coaching. That's how you know, isn't it, that you're making a difference. Okay, so I think in terms of takeaways from this session, if you're from an individual perspective, it's about finding that impact zone. So reflect on your skills and your values, but what is it that you gain from that in terms of as a measure? So how is it that I'm going to measure the impact of my work? As Erica said, how do you define success? How will you know when you've got it? How will you close down the laptop, or you'll come home from work and shut the door and turn and think, I'm making a difference in people's lives. I'm innovating new solutions in a technical world. I'm reaching those sales targets that I need to drive business and finances to keep all of these people in our business. And make impact part of your career decisions. So when you're looking at opportunities, you really want to be thinking about, how does this opportunity play to all of the components of the career equation? Is it going to allow me to utilize the skills and strengths that I want to develop further? Is it playing to an area of passion, a subject, topic, industry, way of being that matters deeply to me? Am I going to see the result of my work in a way that's meaningful and measurable to me? And of course, am I going to do that in an environment that helps me to be at my best? And I think what I would say is, don't be scared to gain that feedback about the difference that you're making. So if you're just starting out now thinking about, I don't know what my impact is, ask people. Ask your colleagues at work, your boss, your other managers, your mentors, your coaches, what do you see as a result of my work? What do you see and feel from the work I'm doing?
Nice.
Look at that customer and client data, but also ask the people in your whole life. Ask your family and friends, what do you see as the difference I make? Be generous with yourself to listen to what they say. We're not very good at that, are we? Sort of shy away from people beating us up and saying great things, but don't be shy to gain some of that feedback.
Yeah, great advice. Yeah. And for companies and organizations, first of all, really work to help employees see their impact, be able to answer that question about how do you connect their daily tasks with the bigger picture of the organization. It should be easy for them to see that correlation, but be supportive, emphatic, and articulate about what that relationship is. And then be curious, explore with them, what does success in their work look and feel like to them? What are their desired outcomes and measures, so that you can use that to inform your succession planning, your development spend, the delegation of activity. You'd be amazed the amount of work you can delegate when you understand where someone wants to go more clearly. And also test your assumptions, because if you've been working with them for a long time, it's easy to think that you know everything about this person and where they want to go. But I hope we've convinced you that definitions of success evolve over time. So even if you do know someone quite well, it may have been some time since you checked in and their perspective might have changed radically. So remember to just keep zoning in on that. And then on the back of that, think about impact-driven roles and projects. The more that you understand about the person in front of you and where they want to go, the better that you can help them to engage in work that aligns with their strengths and their passions. So we work on a high potential program for one of the big investment firms. And one of the most valuable things that comes out of it for their talent managers is being able to be really specific about where someone wants to travel within that organization. The alignment of succession plans between where we think somebody should be and actually where they want to be can be quite surprising and really valuable. But also it helps both parties then, the talent manager and the talent, to look at the sort of stepping stones that need to be in place so that they can move into the C-suite in the next 3 years. Where are the gaps? Where are the tensions? So that they're really rounding themselves out to be ready for senior leadership, for example. And then remember to recognize and to celebrate the contributions that people make, the impacts that they are having. So a culture of recognition, internal rewards, external rewards, visibility, appreciations, thank yous, nominations for customer service, and all of those things help to boost that sense of motivation and engagement, that what you are doing matters, and tell the stories of the ways in which you as an organization, as a team, and as an individual have generated great results that really matter.
You know, an impact is not just a feel-good factor. In sort of summary, it's a key ingredient of a long-term, effective, successful career. So that's super important. It's a key ingredient. So it's one of the things you definitely have to spend some time thinking about. And when individuals and organizations and companies prioritize impact, it can create a much more engaged, cohesive, innovative, fulfilled team, for sure. And really by understanding what impact means to you, you can actively then shape your career, the choices and decisions that you make, making sure that you align. And as you described, when you suddenly realize that this is not in line with my principles, my values, my beliefs, then you're not going to be an environment where you thrive.
Yeah.
There's that friction begins to come in then, doesn't it, for sure? So making those decisions are much better once you've got that clear perspective of what does success look like for me? What are the measures of that impact? Then you begin to build a life that's successful and deeply satisfying.
And our impact is all about supporting your impact as organizations. So if you're listening to this and thinking, actually, my HR team, my talent team, my coaches, my managers, my apprentices, my graduates, my women, and all the other groups that we work with, there's something here that actually could be super, super helpful for helping people to be able to articulate and feel empowered around their careers. Do get in touch with us. You can find us on LinkedIn. Send us an email via the website, thecareerequation.com, and let's schedule a conversation to see how we can embed this into your threads to really harness the talent of everybody that you've got in front of you. And in conclusion, folks, just take a moment with a cup of tea, hopefully sitting in the sunshine now that we've got to spring and summer, to think about how am I making an impact in my work today? And if you're not sure, if the question doesn't immediately breed an answer you feel good about, start exploring. You know, what is it that I want to measure? What is it that would amplify my sense of satisfaction and fulfillment? And if you're in an organization, then also ask yourself, how are you helping your people to see their impact? How are you helping them to make the connections about how what they're doing is valuable and to whom? And if you enjoyed this conversation, do share it with someone who might benefit from it. Please don't forget to subscribe on both the email and on the podcast for more insights, and leave us a review because that really helps to increase visibility and help people find us. So there we go.
I think that's it for today, folks. So enjoy exploring your desired impact and connect with us. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you and the impact that this has.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time on The Career Equation.
Yeah. From brain fog and heavyweight.
Take
over
care.
and out.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Career Equation podcast.
Stay connected with us on socials for more career insights, behind-the-scenes moments, and updates on upcoming episodes. And if you'd like to work with us, visit the Career Equation website or click the links in the show notes.
Remember, the Career Equation isn't just a podcast, it's a journey towards unlocking your full potential, enjoying your life, and doing remarkable stuff. And don't forget to share your thoughts and feedback with us. Your input shapes the future of our show.
Until next time, keep solving those career equations and pursuing your path to success. This is Erica Sosna
And Zoe Schofield, signing off.